to this evening's Hello and welcome to this evening's edition of Politics 101. This evening, our program will be in two parts. In the first part of the program, I'll be speaking with the Mayor of Georgetown, Ubraj Narine, and I hope I've not messed up his name there. And in the second part of the program, we will be talking to Vincent Alexander, GCOM Commissioner. And Vincent will be talking to us about the breaking news that the PPP commissioners at GCOM, the three PPP commissioners, have tabled a motion to dismiss Keith Lowenfield, Roxanne Myers, and Mr. Mingo from their substantive positions at GCOM. We will get an update and some perspective on that development from Vincent Alexander, who is an APNU AFC commissioner. Again, the second part of the program will be dealing by the move at GCOM by the three PPP commissioners to fire Keith Lowenfield, the present CEO, Roxanne Myers, the present deputy CEO, and Mr. Mingo, Clement Mingo, who's the returning officer for Region 4. So we will have an update from Vincent Alexander and some perspective later on. But on the first part of the program, as I said, we'll be talking with the mayor of Georgetown, Mr. Ubraj Narine. Whenever there has been one party occupying the seat of the central government and another party occupying the seat of the city government, there's always been lots of conflict and contestation. When the PPP was in political office prior to 2015, and Mr. Hamilton Green was the mayor of Georgetown, we remember the constant conflict between the central government and the city government on a number of issues, especially the issue of funds being given from the national government to the city government. We had a situation where the PPP government was using disbursements of funds to city government as a political leverage. And so we have witnessed the political assassination of city government, especially Georgetown city government, the tying of the hands of the mayor and city council, the central government being part of owing a lot of money to the city government, taxes and so on. And these have been issues that were there before, and they've raised their nasty heads since the PPP has come back to power. We want to talk about the mayor, the present mayor this evening, about some of those issues and how he plans to resolve them from his standpoint as we go forward. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Mayor, good evening and welcome to Politics 101.
Pleasant good evening to you, Dr. Hines, and I want to express thanks for having me on your program. And to the viewers, a special good evening to you all.
Thank you very much. I can't start without asking you about the clear and present danger, and that is the spate of flooding that we have been having across Guyana and we know Georgetown is no stranger. When uh, whenever there is volume of rainfall, high volume of rainfall, Georgetown suffers. What is the situation as we speak in Georgetown?
What I can say, Dr. Hines, is that the pumps and sluices, all of them are operational, and those things work on tide with the doors and so on to open. And the pumps will continue to operate when the door closes. But however, the pumps also cannot run for 24 hours, but you have to get buildup of water to, so actually the pump can push off those to the outfall. But I can say at this much, our city engineer, Mr. Colvan Venture, at the press conference yesterday, had said that he developed a strategy which his department will able to tackle certain part of Georgetown so that they can able to recede the water to the ocean. However, the city engineer, we as council make policies, but the administration has to execute those policies. However, the city engineer, I believe, is moving in that direction. I did not receive a report, but I know for a fact, and I hope that he execute those policies.
Based on what you know, which are the hardest hit part of the city?
Well, in South is a low area, South Albaiston, and also we visited Plum Park and Farmers Field. Those areas, the road is very high, but the yard or the residents they had flood out as well on Sunday. But the most area right now we focusing on it is the entire South, Rumfeld, and Albaiston, which are heavily, flooded when the rain fell.
Have you had to evacuate anyone, any
No, no,
families?
no. We did not reach to that extent. It is normal as usual. You may know that the city is not new to this.
Yes,
We have these problems for decades, and we try to solve it. And with the coalition government, we had done some works, and we happy if those kind of communication, consultation can able to continue. But I'm seeing a difference with this present administration. We are not getting that kind of resources, funding, and communication and consultation among the government and the mayor city council, and we find that there's a blame game that is happening in the city of Georgetown at this point of time.
since you've gone there, let us go straight there. And that is the question of the tension between city government and central government. In theory, the central government is supposed to disburse monies to Georgetown because Georgetown is part of Guyana. Um, and there should be a partnership between central government and the city government, the municipality of Georgetown. If Georgetown is going to run properly, the city raises resources from taxes and so forth. But we've seen for decades that taxes alone cannot meet the pay, cannot meet the demands the
The
financial
budget.
demands of the city. Um, and you said that when the coalition was in government, you had a better relationship. But since the PPP has come to power, the relationship has worsened. Tell us in what ways have, have that has that relationship worsened?
All right, thanks. Very good question. Now, I want to take you to the Fiscal and Transfer Act, Chapter 7307, Section 7 of that Act, stated very clearly that the treatment of the city of Georgetown and the formula is also stipulated in that Act how the city of Georgetown should be treated with subvention. Um, Comparing 2019 when I took office, the then minister, Minister Bulkan, had helped us tremendously. He plugged closely to 300 million Guyana dollars alone in 2019. That is how we are able to acquire three new garbage trucks, tractors, and numerous things. And also the admin building. We were able to put up the steel structure because I believe Minister Bulkan had knew this act. And the same thing with the drainage system, the Honorable then Minister of Infrastructure, now Public Works, David Patterson, and myself had a good relationship on keeping the drainage and sluice and cokers and NDIA on board and this kind of communication and consultation. And that is how we also able to get more pumps in the city. It is because of the coalition make representation for the city, whether at the level of parliament or cabinet. This relation now gone sour, bitter with the PPP because we are not receiving any form of funding from the PPP administration or government. I can go to this extension. In 2020 budget, it was budgeted for at the National Assembly 10 million Guyana dollars. We did not receive that. For this year, 2021, 30 million Guyana dollars was budgeted. I had to create some kind of scenario or session and make noise to get this 30 million so that I can put it towards the administration, new administration building for the mayor and city council. So it seemed that you have to make nice for everything. And the funding is not there because government know, the PPP knew very well they will squeeze the city council. Taxes cannot do everything. 2.2 or 2.4 billion cannot run the city, Dr. Hines. Because you know why? Valuation for properties was done since 1996. Since 1996. And the Valuation Act 2804 stipulate every 5 years you're supposed to upgrade this list or valuation, which didn't happen for many, many years. So people still pay chicken feed to the city council, and you cannot expect us to where we're going to find this money when only rates and taxes we run the city on.
I have about two or three questions I want to ask you, but let me ask you the one on the point that you ended with. Why is it so difficult to collect more taxes from the residents of Georgetown?
Now, the taxes, most of the residents of Georgetown pay their taxes. The problem is in the business sector we have an issue.
Yes, speak to that.
The business sector, they put up huge buildings, 2-3 story buildings, rent it out for millions of Guyana dollars to foreign investors, but still paying $20,000 and $25,000 to the city council for a year. That cannot work. But if you really use the Valuation Act or revalue that property according to the laws, it will value for more. Probably you may have to pay on 2-3 million Guyana dollars on that property, which you're paying 20 and 25,000 Guyana dollars on. And that is our problem at the level of the city. Valuation for properties need to redo. Unless we have.
When was the last time they had valuation?
Since 1996.
Say that again, Mr. Mayor.
Since 1996.
That is 25 years ago.
Yes.
So businesses are paying the same level of taxes that they were paying 25 years ago, they pay now.
Yes.
So when you raise this with Darren Lal and the PPP people, what do they say?
They don't have any interest in it because Darmlal said to me plain that the PPP campaign that they will not raise taxes and they will not do such. But they expect us to run a city on a shortfall budget and must reach the standard.
Yeah, but what options are left open now? Can you go and barricade these businesses? What did city ordinance say?
No, I cannot. I just have to continue to advocate for revaluation for the city of Georgetown. and the entire country is supposed to revaluation is supposed to happen every 5 years. I just have to continue to advocate, beg the private sector to look, do valuation, change the name of the property, and that is the next thing. Is like you buy a property from someone, and the old owner name still there, and like it change hand like to 10% already, and the old person or the person who owned this property first, their name is still there on the records of city council. All of that is necessary when you have a revaluation, so you bring the records up to date so that the city can able to better function.
Yeah. You mentioned some contact with Dharamlal. When you meet with these men, and I assume they're mostly men, and you lay out the problems, it's not like they don't know the problems, but you lay it out to them. What is their attitude?
Their attitude is very lazy. They do not respond, because I can say to you that many letters was sent to the minister Dharmlal, and not one respond to, not one, right? And you see, they want to stifle the city, and they will continue. They did that for 20 something years while I was in PPP, and they will
Yes,
continue to do that again, and put the blame. Oh, the coalition not doing anything. The coalition control the city. But if the government act according to the laws, and they speak on this constitution, they represent the laws of this country and speak on democracy. But the PPP represent what they want to represent and what they have interest in. They don't have interest in the people's affair of this country.
Mr. Mayor, the PPP has councillors on the city council. Do they represent the city at council meetings, or they represent the PPP?
They hardly come to meeting. The PPP councils hardly come to statutory meeting. They sometimes you see them to just book the name and they're gone, right? They don't really stay at statutory. The records are there. I can show it to the public. PPP councils don't come to council meeting. They don't make any contribution. They never table a motion. So let us do something. All these things the president make allegation of recently in a press conference, lambasting the city council. The PPP got 6 seats, council seat in this city council. Not one day they make representation on those things, and we can get away forward. But you ready to ridicule and lambaste and bambaste the city council.
Have you met with the president since they came to power?
Yes, well, I met with the president. I share my concern with the head of state and team. I also lay out what is our issues and on the way forward. And the president did said that he gonna assist, but it shocked me to see those same item that was discussed on the agenda with the head of state. He took it for political scores and ridiculed the mayor and city council in a press conference recently.
What did he say in that press conference?
He
Specifically,
made,
that. Go ahead.
for example, we have an issue with NIS. Since 1994, NIS wasn't being paid up to date with NIS. We said, look, we need your help. Look, the same way you help Anna Regina Town Council with NIS, you put in a ward for them, you can put in a ward for the city council as well. This is the city we're speaking of. And he gave his assurance. He said, look, the Minister of Finance will submit. We did submit everything to the Honorable Minister of Finance. And after which, it was shocking to me the president come out now with those same agenda we discussed and lambaste the city council. But that is an issue I inherited as mayor, and this is happening since 1994. Who are in government since then? The PPP was in government since 1992 to 2015, and this problem is still there to be solved. And if I approach the head of state and ask for help or the way forward, the best for the interest of the people of the city and city council, I think the head of state should said, well, the mayor and council want to work with us and let us see how to help them. But I find it very different Dr. Hines.
Let me ask you what is perhaps a very sensitive question. You are an Indian Guyanese who belongs to a party that is made up of mostly African Guyanese, but you're an Indian Guyanese. The PPP is a predominantly Indian Guyanese party, certainly the level of leadership. Uh, is there any kind of accommodation that is made to you because of your ethnic your ethnic heritage?
Well, I will say this much, Dr. Hines. I will stand by my party rules and regulations, which
Hmm.
is the PSCR.
Yeah.
I will continue to represent my party because I know my party um, has the interest of Guyanese, and more so as a mayor. I am the mayor for all Guyanese. I do not select a group of people. I help anybody. I do not believe to discriminate. But I believe the PPP do have a problem with me because
Ah.
I'm East Indian or from Indian descent. And you know what they say? And I heard back this. He shouldn't be there. He should be here. But I said no to those things because the PPP play race card for decades in this country, decades, and it is my choice to represent myself. That is my democratic right to vote and to choose a political party of my choice, not grandmother and grandfather and mother and father choice. It is my choice. That is my desire. And that is exactly what is happening in the Indian community as well, because these PPP ministers and officials go there and brainwash my fellow Indian brothers and sisters, and they actually fall for these so-called promises and so forth, and nothing happened. And yet you hear your grandparents say, "Look, you born a PPP, you must vote for PPP, and you got dead a PPP." Well, I said no to that, and I encourage the young Guyanese at my age and youngsters who have to vote in upcoming elections. These kind of nonsense, you cannot hold leaders accountable like that. You must vote for a party that got your interests, got your children and grandchildren interests. My grandfather was a PNC, not because of he was being a PNC. I am a PNC because of the morals and values of the PNC. PNC has a constitution, right? We follow a constitution. What the PPP have? They have an executive body and a selective committee that they run by. And that is my concern. When you speak of democracy, democracy must come from the lower level, which is from your political party you represent.
Well said, Mayor Narine. Let me ask you a very pertinent question. We have had the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic for more than a year and a half now. How has it affected the work of the city council?
It affects us tremendously because I can say this much to you. If PAHO and UNICEF did not help us during the beginning of COVID-19, I believe we should actually collapse in certain ways at the level of the city council because the PPP government did not give us not a dime. The only money that we receive with COVID-19, it's 2 million Guyana dollars. You're speaking of 10,000 US dollars. And that is no kind of money. Our detergent and all these things that we have to sanitize the markets and open spaces cost us closely to 7 million Guyana dollars per a month because you got 5 municipal markets alone to deal with. You have open spaces, you got the vendors, you got the car parks, the bus parks, etc. I can name all of it. It will take much
Mhm.
time. So we are working with the guideline, yes, the gazetted order by the government, which I disagree totally with numerous things in that gazetted order. I believe the 6 of 6 curfew should return so that we can able to have strict measures and guideline in place. And these things only implemented also for the PPP for certain people, and certain people of their choice don't have any curfew or restriction.
Mhm. Mayor Narine, one of the things, one of the features of the city council under the PPP before 2015 was the relationship, the council relationship with workers. And there used to be a lot of strikes and so on. I haven't noticed much of that. Would you say that under your governance, there has been improved industrial relations?
I can say this much, yes, Dr. Hines. We had improved ourselves, and I'm happy that you noticed that. There were no strikes since I took office for salary or any benefits and so on from workers because we put policies in place to avoid these kind of protests and all these things. I engage the unions and see how we can work to better ourselves. And these things, I explain all these things to the president. You know, this is the way we going forward. We want to better our city. We want to better ourselves as a city. And I believe that your help will be very great for us.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for highlighting that because if you look after your workers, then you're taking care of half of the problem. But of course, the problem in terms of relations with the central government remains. But going forward, what plans do you have in spite of all the problems that you're facing? Problem of a recalcitrant central government, the problem of COVID, the problem of constant flooding. Despite all of that, tell residents of Georgetown, those who want to visit the city, about
We, we,
plans going forward.
we need to review the laws of the city. We need to review the bylaws, the 28 to 1. We need to review those things to give more kind of authority to the city council. We need to review the bylaws that govern the markets, that govern our drainage system, building codes, the building bylaws passed since 1927. We are in the 24th centuries. We need to review all of these kind of bylaws. And I advocate for all of these things with this government and nothing coming forward. Bear in mind, I did so in the coalition. What happened? The no confidence motion was 2018. I took office 2019. There was no parliament. So my opportunity is with this government. And this government should really relook those things. The government owes close to 1 billion Guyana dollars.
Say that again. Say that again.
The
Say that
PPP
again.
government owes at the city council close to 1 billion Guyana dollars in taxes. How can we function? And then you lambaste in if I get that 1 billion, I will able to clear NIS tomorrow morning. I will able to do many things. City Hall building can start restore. But if we don't have those things, we will continue to play a blame game. I wish not to play a blame game, but to work in the interest of the citizen of the city of Georgetown.
Have you engaged the leader of the opposition in parliament on some of these
Well,
issues?
I did not as yet. I did not as yet. I plan to engage the leader of the opposition on these matters very soon because of all what is happening. I was trying to communicate. I did not want to jump guns. I was trying to communicate and have a good relationship with the government so that we can able to have this kind of development and different strategy moving forward the city of Georgetown. But if not, I will now have to write the leader of the opposition, which I plan to do officially and meet with him so that I can able to explain these things to the leader
And
of
I
the
and
opposition.
I know you have to go because we had promised to have you a little bit longer, but you became a new father. Today you have a little baby that was born today. Congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you, Doctor.
and I know you have to go and take care of business at that end, and then you have the flood and so on. But I'm very glad you reached out to Politics 101, and we are here to accommodate you anytime you want to come here to talk about the issues in the city. You're welcome to Politics 101. So
Thank you,
on
Dr.
behalf
Hines.
of the production team and the audience, we want to thank you very much for coming on and hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That was the mayor of Georgetown, Mr. Ubraj Narine, being very candid about the problems faced by his council and the central government. Once again, we see the PPP government using its control of government and state to punish any entity that is governed by the opposition. It's an obscene type of politics, something that has been going on for a very long time, but it's something that must be solved if we are going to ensure that the city of Georgetown is returned to its state of nature, to its form of beauty. At the end of the day, people are going to judge you by your capital city. And the PPP continues to play games with the problems and the governance of the city. The mayor was very articulate, as you notice. He understands his job, he understands the issues, and that is always important when one is in charge of any government entity. At the end of the day, Georgetown is part of Guyana. And if for objective reasons, Georgetown is not able to raise the necessary resources that is needed, then the central government has the constitutional responsibility to pick up the slack. The central government owes the city, as you are there, $3 billion. A lot of those business persons who are not paying taxes, my understanding is that they are financiers of the PPP. And so, therefore, the PPP has to stop this nonsense of using its political authority to punish entities that they do not control. At the end of the day, the people of Georgetown are part of Guyana. You heard the mayor said that the people of Georgetown pay their rates and taxes. They are not the problem. Why are you punishing them? Because they may have voted, the majority of them, for another political force? That happens all over the world. The relationship between central government and local government, municipal government, is one of cooperation. What we in political science call the marble cake version of cooperation, not the pyramid where the central government is at the top and then the local government is at the bottom, and neither the twain shall meet. Whenever you have that kind of pyramid arrangement, then it doesn't work. The country doesn't work. So it is the marble cake arrangement, one of cooperation, regardless of which party controls the municipal government. And so here is hoping that enough pressure can be put on the central government to ensure that the people of Georgetown gets justice. We are waiting Mr. Vincent Alexander, who will join us to talk about the developing story at GCOM. The breaking news this evening is that GCOM, the 3 PPP commissioners, have tabled a motion to immediately fire GCOM CEO, Mr. Lowenfield, the Deputy CEO, Ms. Roxanne Myers, and the returning officer from Region 4, Mr. Clement Mingo. The matter is put down for a date to have the discussion of the motion. And as with everything that has to do with the majoritarian system, all it takes is for the chairman of GCOM to vote with the 3 PPP members, and those officers will be fired. There may be some technical blocks that can be made. I don't know how much a quorum is, and we're waiting on Vincent Alexander to update us on what is going to be the way forward. You know that the PPP, on coming to government, they targeted GCOM staff. All 3 of those officers have been hauled before the courts. Some lower staff, Miss December, and I don't remember all of the names, were also all before the courts. Miss Valda Lawrence as the agent for the opposition in Georgetown, Region 4, is also all before the courts. And it is clear that the strategy that is going to be used would be to utilize the majority in Parliament to change the electoral laws with the help of the IRI, and to have new electoral laws, along with the fact that they're now moving to get rid of senior officers of GCOM who are perceived to be supporters of the opposition only because of their ethnicity. That is the clear plan. Two weekends ago, Mr. Ralph Ramkaran, Senior Counsellor Ramkaran, wrote in his column that if Mr. Granger gets his way, Mr. Granger had made the comment that our elections should be determined by our courts, that the appeal court should be the court of last resort on electoral matters. Mr. Ralph Ramkaran said, if the coalition gets back to power and they're able to change the laws to make that happen, then the PPP can say goodbye to ever winning an election again. On the same weekend, I wrote in my column, The Truth of the Matter, in the Village Voice, that if the PPP, with the help of IRI and the PPP parliamentary majority, if they're able to change the electoral laws, then the coalition would find it hard to prevail at elections. And in any case, the laws are going to facilitate tampering with the elections, and the coalition could say goodbye So both Ramkaran and I were looking at two different things. It is clear that the PPP's moves at GCOM are aimed at giving the PPP an advantage at elections. They already have advantages. The voters list, the tainted voters list is already advantageous to the PPP. They are now moving one step forward. They're now moving one step forward to changing the laws. We are at a critical point in our history that calls for pro-action. Because the only way we are going to turn back these plans is by activism. Activism. I've said over and over again that this is a critical period in our history. A critical period in our history. One that we ought to take seriously. We had this past week the revelations by Mr. Paul Slow, retired police officer, who is the head of the Police Service Commission. The public has been informed that no other person but the president called Mr. Paul Slow to influence him and the commission to promote police officers who are partial to the PPP. The president has not denied the calls. All he's saying is that he did not pressure Mr. Paul Slow. But he needs to tell the public what was the conversation. What was the content of the conversation he had with Mr. Paul Slow? In my estimation, the president has committed a crime. The president has committed a crime. And a lawyer on a show this morning, the lawyer for Mr. Paul Slow, says that the president can be sanctioned under Article 180 of the Constitution. We've seen that since the PPP came to office, it has decided that it will turn the country and the country's institution upside down. As a government that has been installed by foreign forces, among other actors, it feels that it is not accountable. And so therefore, it could do anything. I think what's important here is that I am very sure that PPP leaders have done this before. They've called heads of boards and institutions and given them instructions. And some of these people have either carried out the instructions or they may not have carried them out, but they have said nothing. I think the breakthrough here is that Mr. Slow and company have decided to spill the beans. Part of the governance praxis of the PPP is that everyone has a price, especially if you are African Guyanese. You have a price. You can be bribed. And since Mr. Paul Slow resisted him and they never got to offer him a bribe, they decided they were going to charge them in order to get rid of them from the Police Service Commission. But Slow decided to hit back, to fight back. And we are here. The president spent his entire statement talking about his presumed knowledge of Mr. Slow's political affiliation. That is not the issue, Mr. President. The issue is that you call the man and ask him, and I'm sure you did more than asking, sought to instruct him to influence who gets promoted. You need to address that. Did you do it or did you not do it? And if you didn't do it, what was the conversation? Were you talking to Mr. Slow about the weather? Were you talking to Mr. Slow about COVID-19? Tell us what you were talking to him about. Why did you call him? We don't want to know who Mr. Slow vote for. We want to know what is your conversation. Are you lying, Mr. President? Are you lying? Is Mr. Slow lying? We want to know. We want to know. For too long, these people have gotten away with all kinds of nonsense because they've always found some people, especially some African Guyanese, to do their bidding, to take money from them, to take bribe from them. They've always. I hope Mr. Slow and Mr. Conway become examples to African Guyanese professionals how to be professional. What Slow and Conway and them have done is that they have put a spoke in the wheels of the PPP government perception of Black professionals. And Slow and Conway have stood up to them. And I hope that is an example to other Black professionals who, when they're approached by the PPP government, to break the law, because he was asking Slow and the commission to break the law. And what they've done, instead of breaking the law, they've exposed to the Guyanese public that he, the president, is the one that is breaking the law. I see Vincent is here, and so we're going to pivot and go back to that situation at GCOM, where the PPP, according to reports today, at a GCOM meeting, tabled a motion for the summary and immediate dismissal of the CEO, the deputy CEO, and the returning officer for Region 4. As usual, Vincent, who's a commissioner, he was there. Vincent, bring us up to date with what happened today.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, moderator David. Today, under the item called Any Other Business, Commissioner Banraj inquired of the chairperson whether she had received mail from him that was hand delivered. At that time, apparently, she had not yet been personally in receipt of the mail. He proceeded to intimate that the mail consisted of 3 motions. One motion moved by each of the president's nominee to GCOM, namely Commissioner Balraj, Shadiq, and Narayan, and that in each instance, one of them seconded the motion of the other. He proceeded to advise us that the motion, in essence, was calling for the immediate dismissal of 3 GCOM officials, namely the Chief Elections Officer, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer, and the Registered Elections Officer for District Number 4, one Mr. Bingo. In a circumstance where the motion had just been delivered and on any other business, the chairman suggested that we have to give the affected persons an opportunity to speak to the motion. The response of Commissioner Gunraj was that he didn't think that was necessary and seemed to be suggesting that Article 161 of the Constitution provides for us to remove persons without what may be called a hearing. In any circumstance, the matter was put down for subsequent determination as to how we will proceed with the matter. Subsequent to that, the officers have been in receipt of letters of allegation asking them to show cause. So it appears that the chairperson has embarked on a process of giving the officers a hearing. It is still to be determined when that will occur, etc., etc. But I think we have to take the occurrence today in context. After the 2015 elections, when by then the opposition reshuffled the commissioners to bring in Bibi Shadiq and Mr. Robeson Ben, the very first thing that Robeson Ben raised was the ethnic composition of the senior officers of GICO. That was the very first matter he raised. He accused us of having an imbalance, of ethnic imbalance at the level of the senior officers. I had to respond to that to indicate that we have a meritocracy, but that more than that, there were 3 to 4 Indian officers who had been fired by the commission at the instigation of the then chief elections officer. The human resource officer's contract in Indo-Guyanese was not renewed at Mr. Budu's recommendation. The administrator's officer's contract at Indo-Guyanese was not renewed at his recommendation. We had the resignation of another human resource officer of Indian descent. We had the resignation and non-renewal again of the ACO of Indian descent. And so, in fact, it was under the leadership of Gokul Budu that approximately 4 Indo-Guyanese in that senior management were removed. And using the merit system, GCOM recruited replacements who, by virtue of merit, turned out to be Indo-Guyanese. Yet, Ben came to say that we had cleansed GCOM of Indo-Guyanese and there was an imbalance and that needs to be rectified. I think what's occurring now could be seen as a part of that rectification.
Mm-hmm.
It started not with these 3. The chief accountant has come up for renewal. The normal process at GCOM is for the chief elections officer, the supervisor, the chief accountant to do the appraisal, and with nothing being untoward, the officer will be reappointed for a new term. The moment that appraisal was done, some commissioners made it clear, and one in particular made it pellucid that she would not support the reappointment of the chief accountant, who happens to be Afro-Guyanese. She called for the audit report of GCOM as the basis to determine whether he was suitable for reappointment or not. The fact of the matter is the latest available audit report is the 2016 report, though GCOM has submitted its information for other audits. And 2016 falls outside of the period of the person's last contract. And therefore, I made it clear that it was irrelevant. The use of the 2016 report was irrelevant. She, however, maintained that she was not supporting the reappointment. At a subsequent meeting, came with the contention that the officer had established a consultancy, and by virtue of that, was in breach of his contract and maintained that he should not be given a renewal. The officer has since written to indicate that in fact permission was granted to him for that consultancy in 2012. Her position remains the same, that he should not be hired So this is where the process of ethnic cleansing seemed to have commenced
Mhm.
post-elections 2020. And so now we're on to the three highest officers of GCOM. I have not had the opportunity to go into the detail of the motions. What I can say is this. I looked at the motion of Commissioner, uh, Deputy Chief Elections Officer Myers. There are 15 reasons why she should not be retained and should be dismissed. Of those 15 reasons, 10 accuse her of aiding and abetting. That's what they accuse her of. 10, aiding and abetting. No act that she has carried out in her own right. She aided and abetted the CEO, they claim, in 10 of those. Two others may well be considered frivolous. May well be considered frivolous. For example, they said that the DCO facilitated on her own volition a meeting in GCOM facility on the 5th of March by a candidate of the contesting party to wit in the GCOM Command Center at Ashman Building. That's the accusation for dismissal. The second is the DCO specifically on her own volition instructed officers of the Ghana Police Force to remove a commissioner and party reps from the GCOM Command Center. Those are the only two accusations brought directly against her. Other 10 are aiding and abetting. And to make up the 15, there are two others. The last one is simply the call for her removal. And the penultimate is to say that she is before the court for criminal charges.
Mhm.
We know that the practice has been, not at GCOM, but in the government service, and if someone is charged, that the administrative processes of discipline are held in abeyance to await the outcome of the charges, because the outcome of the charges will, in fact, give one an opportunity to proffer evidence as to whether the person is, in fact, guilty or not. Here we have an instance where these persons are before the court. They've been before the court since last year for months. The prosecutors have failed after telling the court that they had hundreds of statements to submit. They failed to submit those statements. So that before the court, they have not yet produced evidence. And here we are at GCOM, being preemptive, attempting to fire those persons who have not yet been found guilty by a court. I can see this as nothing other than an attempt at what I call ethnic cleansing, and more specifically, an attempt by the People's Progressive Party to control GCOM through the appointment of officers who they consider to be amenable to their agenda. And so it seems to be a part of a wider scheme of things that's unfolding in Ghana today. Control, control, control.
Control. Vincent, what are the options open to the opposition commissioners in this situation? My layman's reading says that if the chair votes with the three commissioners, then those people are gone. Am I right? Or
Yes,
is there a more convoluted process?
you are right. But it is not apparently unfolding that straightforward for this reason.
Mhm.
As I said, the proposition of one of the moves of the motion is that we should simply have deliberation on the motion and a vote. And that will take us where you said, the chairman having more than likely the determining vote. But the chairman herself intimated that the people should be given a hearing. And by her first action, which has been to ask them to show cause, she's definitely gone in the direction of a hearing.
Mm-hmm.
As a collective, we ourselves did not discuss and have not determined the process we wish to follow on the matter.
Uh-huh.
But in some regards, what she has done is suggested that the way in which she wants to proceed is to have a hearing after which the determination would be made.
Uh-huh. So, where does that leave the work, the overall work of GCOM?
Well, I put it this way. Prior to now, GCOM has relatively been comatose. I think I've said this before.
Yes, you have.
Because what we should be doing is preparing for the government election. That item almost mysteriously disappeared from the agenda. And so what GCOM is doing in some regards is routine work. And where we're at now is that if these persons were to leave, then we would continue in that vein of doing little or no work.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would embark on a process to attempt to install the new officers. This plot is clear. The People's Progressive Party has said in no uncertain terms that they will not go to another elections with those three officers.
Yes.
So that we have the three commissioners carrying out the diktats of the party. That's the nature of things at GCOM. They're carrying out the diktats of the party. There's no modicum of decency. They haven't even, done this overtly. They've covertly said it's not going to happen, and we see that the plot is unfolding. It's the plot of the People's Progressive Party.
And so, therefore, Vincent, you're making the point, which I think a lot of our viewers are making, is that this issue is not an issue of GCOM's um, management, it's a political issue.
Undoubtedly so.
Yes. And
Undoubtedly
then,
so.
yes. And so, if it's a political issue, then any opposition to this move has to be, in the final analysis, a political opposition to the move. Let's say we don't know what the chairman is going to do, so we're not trying to preempt the chairman. The chairman may well vote to retain them, and so the motion would then be defeated. But it must be a wait. The process by which this thing is going to unfold, what evidence are going to be thrown up, what pieces of evidence are going to be thrown up, what the chairperson's casting vote would be. Any discussion of this issue, if I get you clearly, has to be linked to the larger political design of the PPP for ultimate control of all the state institutions, from police to GCOM to army.
That's my theory, actually. It is therefore a matter that has to be dealt with not only within GCOM, it has to be dealt with on the political landscape of this country.
And I completely agree with you. Let me take you back to the IRI matter. We haven't heard much about it since the first 2 weekends. From a GCOM standpoint, what has been happening?
There has been no further discussion in GCOM on the IRI matter. GCOM is comatose. There's been no further discussion in GCOM on the IRI matter.
And so the opposition, GCOM commissioners, yourself and your two brothers, your position remained the same as it was then.
There has been no change.
There's been no change in that position. Vincent, you're a student, among other things, a student of Guyanese politics. GCOM has always been an institution of contestation in Guyana. I grew up hearing the name Boris. You know the names will tell you about the periods as GCOM. Has there ever been in that history of contestation? Has there ever been a heightened, politicized GCOM as this one?
No, I don't think so. I think that over time, what was occurring in GCOM, and I've been there since 2007, was that commissioners were, in a sense, becoming commissioners of GCOM. And though they may have had political positions, they did not allow the political positions to become absurd and to undermine GCOM as an institution. What has happened at GCOM? We have seen a frequency of removal of commissioners from by the PPP. And I think that what they have done is they would have removed commissioners if they thought the commissioners were not serving the purpose that is required, and have come to the point now where I think their commissioners understand in no uncertain terms. You either serve the purpose or you'll be out. I've seen commissioners who've taken a position in the matter, and in the matter of a week they've come back with a changed position, which suggests that once they get out of GCOM, they are either instructed or directed, and they come back and with straight face a change of position.
Absence of collegiality, and basically what you have there, the two are the parties rather than collegiality. I mean, and I take your point that one can start off as a representative of one's party, but having to work together on an important aspect of our political architecture, one grows into becoming collegial, but that is absent now.
At this time, it's completely absent.
Yeah.
Collegiality has been replaced by personal hostility.
Personal hostility.
Personal hostility.
Yeah.
Name calling and insults and things of that nature.
Wow. Vincent, tell our audience what it feels like to walk into that place as an opposition commissioner, opposition appointed commissioner, I may say, to walk into a place like that.
Well, I think COVID has some positives. It has provided us with the use of cyberspace for the conduct of our meetings. So we don't have to walk into that place. But that notwithstanding, it is dreadful to consider attending even virtually
virtual meetings.
It's dreadful, but it's fortunate that it has not been face-to-face meetings. The level of hostility sometimes has come close to threats of physicality.
Wow. 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 Before you came on, I was drawing the audience attention to 2 Sundays ago, Ralph Ramkaran, senior counsel, responding to Mr. Granger's suggestion as that election matters should be determined by the Guyanese court, that is the Court of Appeal, should be the court of last resort for elections. Comrade Ralph wrote in his column that if the coalition were to get its way with that, the PPP can say goodbye to ever winning an election again. On the same weekend, I said in my column that if IRI and the PPP get together and come up with electoral laws and the PPP uses its majority to implement them, the coalition will have to say goodbye to elections that would not be tampered with. Give us your expert analysis on those two positions.
I talk about the sovereign.
Okay.
The executive sovereign, the judicial sovereign, and the legislative sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a country where the sovereigns are subject to political partisan control. And so there is always the danger of who is in government using those sovereigns to retain the reins of power. We have seen situations where when one party is out of government, they're critical of the judiciary. And when they're in government, they embrace and praise the judiciary. So we're not a country that's guided by, I would say, the rule of law and by objectivity. We're guided by partisan control of the sovereigns and the use of those sovereigns to retain political power. On the specific question of the CCJ, for me, that's a dilemma or conundrum, given my own belief in the integration movement and my own view that the Caribbean Court of Appeal is one of the partial success stories of the integration movement. But we do see in our constitution some thought of the question, because indeed there are aspects of the electoral system which the constitution suggests should not be subject to the CCJ's ruling. Now, this is a point I think we have to discuss in greater detail.
Mm-hmm.
Ghana is not a typical Westminster system,
Yeah.
and therefore the electoral jurisprudence of Ghana is not jurisprudence that is learned or practiced necessarily in the wider Caribbean. And so it may be argued that you can have problems where this aspect of your jurisprudence differs if people who are of a different disposition are the ones in position to give judgment. And I think
Yeah.
that could be the basis for Mr. Ranger's contention. And it is a fact that our jurisprudence differs not only in electoral matters, but for example in land matters.
Mm-hmm.
We are of one jurisdiction, common law,
Yeah. Yeah.
commonwealth jurisdiction, so to speak. But when one studies law and goes to the U within law school, the Guyanese are set apart on the question of land law
Mm-hmm.
because conveyancing, which is practiced here, is alien to the rest of CARICOM. And so special attention has to be paid to that aspect, separate and apart. And the students of the other countries do not pay attention to that because it's not a part of their practice. I'm
Right.
just saying that to say that there are some differences and in our jurisprudence, and where there are those differences, then there's probably need for special treatment. My disposition is inconclusive, but I do take the point that it's a matter that ought to be considered, given the difference of our electoral jurisprudence with that of those countries where they have, on one hand, straight first past the post
As the
system.
post. Yes.
We have a combination, a hybrid system of first past the post and uh,
PR.
proportional representation, with proportional representation being the abiding principle of our system. The manner of the appointment and constitution of our election commission is different, and so there are fundamental differences, and may well justify that for the purposes of decisions that we emphasize local content in that regard.
Yeah. Vincent, you made a run for the leadership of the PNC. I think it was 2007.
That's correct.
And I've heard you since then say you've, well, suggested that you've retired from party politics. You've gone into GCOM. You are active in several what they call civil society organizations. You've not been involved in party politics. At one time, you told me you didn't even renew your party membership. You didn't pay your dues. But we are in the moment when people are beginning to talk about new leadership in the major opposition party. Are you thinking about walking back on the promises you made to yourself in that regard? Are you interested, if asked, if the conditions are right, in contesting again for the leadership of the PNC?
Let me respond this way. A number of persons have, in fact, raised the question with me. And my response has been categorical, and I have no intention of contesting office, political office. More than that, I'm not a member of the party. And so even if I thought of doing so, I'm not eligible at this point in time. Not having been a member since 2007, 14 years, I've not been a member. And so that fact does not allow me to be ambivalent on the matter.
Vincent, you're a political animal. I'm pressing you a little bit. You're a political animal. You have a fine political mind. I've worked with you in organization. You have organizational skills. What is it that has been so toxic that you wouldn't want to lend those skills to help with leadership of the party and the country? What is it that drove you
Lending
in?
those skills to help the leadership, is different from being in the leadership. I see myself in the Guyanese community as a resource person. Any body of people with whom I concur in terms of their objectives, my thoughts and ideas, and even my actions may be available, but as a resource person, rather than someone seeking to occupy political office.
Well, there we have it. Vincent Alexander making it very clear that he's not interested in that kind of party leadership. That he would rather lend his talents in other ways. Well, Vincent, thanks for coming on at quick notice today to bring us up to date on what's happening at GCOM and also accommodate my gorilla question. Which you answered like a gorilla too. And, and there you have it. So we're gonna keep our eye on what's happening at GCOM with those charges, and as usual, we'll call on you as our resource person to help us out. Thank you, Vincent.
Once again, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And there we have it. One of the finer political minds turning his sight away from the actual leadership of the political party. It says that we still have persons who are prepared to contribute in ways other than as a maximum leader. I want to end this evening by remembering Mondale Smith, a young man I met along the way as a media person. Wherever he was with his microphone and I was there, he would say, "Hello, come here." And he would want a word from me. I got to know him and exchange a few words with him here and there. He was in the media, and so his politics could not be articulated in a certain kind of way. You know, he was part of theater. He was one of the best MCs. Every year he would be at Actors 1st of August emancipation activity at the park. I understand that he had become a businessman later on. And whenever I look at persons like him, I recognize that our Caribbean is that special place that produces special people. We know the names of the leading actors and poets and scholars and politicians, but they're the Mondale Smiths who walk the road, walk the Caribbean road. I said this morning, I'm going to repeat it here. He's just 44, 45, and he had much more to offer Guyana and the region. I don't think God was ready for him, with all due respect to the Christians. I think he's gone too soon. As Martin Carter in his poem Death of a Comrade said, death must not find us thinking that we die. Too soon, the banner draped for you. I would prefer a banner in the wind, not bound so tight in a scarlet fold. But sudden, your people's tears. If we must sing no more with you or march no more with you, then let me take a patience and a calm, for even now the greener leaf explodes, sun brightened stone, and all the river burns. Now from the burning vanguard moving on. Dear brother, we salute you, and we say death must not find us thinking that we lie. I cannot help but bemoaning the fact that Mondale died of COVID-19. And we have a right to celebrate him. But we have to ask ourselves, have we not all been complicit in his sudden death, his premature death? I don't want to preach to people who are COVID skeptics and vaccine skeptics. I don't want to preach to you. You have to make your personal decisions. I don't want to preach to you. But I'm asking, have we not all helped to kill that brother? COVID forces us to balance the personal freedom with the collective security, the collective good. It is my view. One has to balance the two. One may not like vaccines for whatever reason, although Guyana is one of the most vaccinated places in the world, and I never hear people complain before, but that's another day. Even if you're not taking that vaccine for you, is it not possible to take it for somebody else, to take it for Mondale? Even if you don't want to take it for yourself, just a thought, just a thought. Mondale is gone. We will sing his praises. He will get one of the biggest send-off. But he's dead because he caught COVID from somebody. don't want to preach to my audience. I tried throughout this thing not to get into that. But our brother has gone. Martin Carter said he hopes that death does not find us thinking that we die. I think death found Mondale thinking that he died. Let's take the moment of that brother's passing and think about this COVID, not in narrow, personalized terms, but in a broad, social, and humanistic terms. We had a duty to fight slavery, and we win. We fought colonialism, and we win. We fought indentureship, and we win. And we got to fight COVID and win it. But we got to win it together. We can't kill our people and then say God was ready for him to go home. I am sure God is a just God who was not ready for our brother to go home. I am certain of that. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying. Until the next time, when we will discuss on the next edition of Politics 101, the issue of the police, and so on. I'm going to have my all-star team on Thursday night to get in to all the nitty-gritty of what Mr. Slow pointed out. So that's for the next edition on Thursday. For now, let's give thanks for Mondale Smith and let's check ourselves as we give thanks. Good night, Kwaheri, Jambo.